Good morning, good evening, good afternoon guys, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're having a beautiful day. And today I thought I'd bring to you something slightly different. Now, if you clicked on this video, you're obviously a language enthusiast or trying to decide whether or not languages are for you. So I thought I'd do this video basically saying why you should study languages and what I've learned through studying languages. So a bit of background story. I've done GCSE, A-level, Spanish and French, and I'm now at Stirling University studying Spanish and as my main degree, but I'm also carrying on French as an elective, so I will still be doing French for the first 2 years of my degree. So that's a little bit of background knowledge, and without rambling on too much before the start of this intro, I'm just going to say, cue the intro. Okay, so as I said, I study languages, and I thought that I would just put this video out there to help anybody choosing their GCSEs, Nat 5s, Highers, A-levels, Advanced Highers, degree. Well, it's a bit late for that, but obviously I understand that it is a very difficult decision to make what you should do. The first piece of advice I can say is choose something you're passionate about. People always go for something that they're good at, but I think to really excel in the subject you have to be passionate about it. After 6 months, you know, you're kind of sat and you're like bored of everything. The only thing that's going to drag you to do your work is your passion for the subject. So I definitely would say make sure you're passionate about the subject that you're choosing, and make sure that you're passionate about why you want to do that subject. Now, even if that's with goals towards what you want to achieve, what grade you want to get, where you want to go, what you want to be, kind of thing, definitely make sure you're motivated, make sure you have the passion behind it. Okay, so that's just in general with GCSEs and A-levels kind of thing, and even degree. So I just wanted to take this time to say why languages are so good. Obviously, if you put a language down on your CV, it's something different. It shows a lot more than just being able to speak another language. It shows communication skills. It shows ability to understand basic grammar, ability to understand different cultures, ability to speak to different people rather than just English speakers. It shows a lot more things which I'm sure you can expand upon, but they're the first things that come to my head. I would definitely say that if you choose to study a language, you will get a lot more than just learning that language. For example, now I did A-level Spanish and French. Now I'm just going to pick on Spanish just because it's the easiest thing for me to talk about, first one that comes to my head. So A-level Spanish was not just the language. People think that because I do languages at university, I spend all day, every day, learning grammar structures, learning vocabulary, when in fact it's much more than this. I learn about Spain as a country and France as a country, but also places like Haiti, Mexico, Peru, Argentina, their cultures, their religions, their artwork, their literature. It's all more than just speaking the language. There is much more to languages as a whole than just the way you speak it, the way you write it, the way you listen to it, the way you read it. Now obviously we do have tests and exams in those 4 skills: reading, listening, writing and speaking. Obviously they are compulsory. Obviously you are trying to learn the language as well as the culture, but on top of that, especially at university, I have essays based on a particular text. So for example, last semester I had to do an essay based on a film which was set in Cuba. I had an analysis of Frida Kahlo's paintings and how they impact upon Mexican culture, and I also studied some photographs based on Peruvian culture and how this was shown. So obviously I'm just speaking about my personal experience, but you do get to look into a lot more than just grammatical structures and vocabulary. Common misconception with languages at university or A-level is that it is generally just language. It is not. It is so much more than that. For example, in A-level Spanish, we studied religion, we studied history, we studied the geography, we studied food, which was my personal favourite. We studied artwork, literature, there was sport involved, there was dictatorships, the world wars, and there's so much more to it. So for example, in French at uni now, we're studying the French Revolution, but we're also studying, I can't speak English, let alone Spanish and French. We're also studying the Haiti and their revolution, so it's much more than just France and Spain, it's also the wider world and how this affects us as well as a British nation. So yeah, definitely consider languages because you can definitely learn a lot from a lot more than just the language through studying a language, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Definitely consider it and don't just rule it out just because you think it would be boring. It is very interesting, I can promise you that. So now I'm going to go on to talk about my experience with GCSEs, A-levels and university so far. If you're not interested in this, then feel free to leave now. I have kind of broken it down into why you should study languages, my experience, and splitting up my experience. So if I persuaded you to study a language, please give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you later, but I will go on now to talk about my experience with GCSEs. So I did GCSE Spanish and French. Basically GCSE at the time, it's changed now, I don't know what it's changed to. Obviously the same thing with any qualification, it's always evolving, always trying to improve itself. So with GCSE I learned basic grammar structures, and started to look at more complex grammar structures such as the subjunctive mood. I guess the conditional tense is a little bit more complex, there's a lot more to it, and we started looking at stuff like this. Pronouns as well, they're a lot more confusing than what you think when you first look at them, but GCSEs generally, for me, it looked at just the language kind of side, whereas A-level was so much more interesting just for me and my opinion. Obviously I love learning the language. I would not be doing this degree if I did not love learning new vocabulary, learning new grammatical structures. That was a big word for me and I kind of just got it out there, grammatical. But I definitely love that side of it, but it just kind of adds a little bit more flavour to the mix. If there's a little bit of culture, a little bit of something interesting in there. So it's like, basically, it's like having scrambled egg, okay? You've made your scrambled egg, that's GCSE. A-level is adding a bit of cheese on top, a bit of spices, and then university is adding some sort of bread, some sort of smoked salmon, some spinach in there, some salsa, because we all love salsa. If that makes any sense whatsoever, I kind of love food. So I'm getting off topic now. So A-level, Spanish and French, I think I did AQA. Yeah, I did AQA. So what we had to do was we had a listening, reading and writing paper. We had to do a summary on a text in English. No, we didn't. No, we had to do a summary on a text and a summary on a listening piece, which was written in Spanish. We also had 2 translations, I think. One to English from Spanish or French, one to French or Spanish from English. So we had those, and then on top of this we had the culture side, which was essays and So we studied a book and a film. So in Spanish I studied El laberinto del fauno, and what was my book? Como agua para chocolate. And in French I studied Un sac de bille and Lion. So I obviously got to study French and Spanish films and books while also benefiting from learning how to write an essay in that language. So there you've got literature and films, and you also had to do a speaking exam which included all these different aspects of culture. So we learned about Spanish culture, we learned about French culture, we learned about Senegal culture, Canadian culture. Don't know why I said Canadian like that. We learned about Mexican culture, Argentinian culture, Peruvian culture. We learned about all these different, it wasn't just Spanish and French culture, but we learned about history, we learned about the geography of the regions, we learned about different indigenous cultures, we learned about religion and how it affects politics, we learned about politics and how it affects history, we learned about history, we learned about so many things. We learned about art, culture, different sub-languages. So for example, in Spain you have obviously you have the Basque and Catalan languages as well as Spanish. We learned about Franco, we learned about the World Wars, and all of that. I could spend hours telling you what I picked out from the A-level course. But yeah, no, definitely worth a go. Okay, so one thing I forgot to add about A-level, I just finished filming the video but I'm editing this in now, is that there was the independent research project within the speaking exam. So you got to research anything you wanted based on a Spanish or French speaking culture, country, and you got to learn about all of these things which you were interested in. So for my Spanish one, I did the Barcelona Olympic Games and how it benefited the city after the long reign of Franco. So in 1992, the Barcelona Olympics kind of acted as a way to bring Barcelona back up and the region of Catalonia back up from the struggles that it had during Franco's reign. And I also did, for French, I did the gastronomy during the French Revolution and how the French Revolution affected the gastronomy that we know today as French culture and French cuisine, and it also affected global food and gastronomy and the way we eat and the way we look at food. So I got to do that. Now, I recently went to Barcelona and purchased a book called Catalans and Scottish. 2 seconds, I will get it. Okay, so this is the book, and I have started reading this, and it is very interesting to hear the links between the Catalans and the Scottish. Obviously being Scottish, this is really interesting for me. It's all in Spanish and it's quite a big book, so I'm just reading a little bit at a time and highlighting interesting information. I definitely think that this would be a really interesting research project to look at for Spanish. Obviously both the Scottish and the Catalans have tried for independence, both legally and illegally, and both have not been successful as yet. I know it's very political, but I hope that Scotland does not go independent, but I definitely think that this would be a good idea to do for your research project. I'm considering doing it for my dissertation. Obviously, it being a first year, it's a bit far in the future to be thinking about my dissertation, but it's certainly one thing that I would consider doing. And I think that the independent research is so good in A-level because you can literally do anything you want based on Spain, France, or a Spanish or French speaking country. So I definitely think that's a good thing. A-level languages can pretty much combine with anything. It can combine with English, it can combine with history, it can combine with I did it with PE, you can do it with art, you can do it with religious studies, you could do it with, you could even do it with anything that I can think of. Science you could do it with. It just adds something a little bit different and something a little bit more exciting to your CV. And when applying for jobs and things, it kind of makes you stand out a lot. It also just makes you seem like you're less British in a culture. So British people tend to have the culture where it's like, oh, they can speak our language, we don't need to learn their language, whereas it kind of expresses that you're excited to communicate with other people, not just British people, and find out more about them. I think obviously languages is important for your communication skills, definitely. So that was my experience with A-level. Now obviously I studied A-level to get to university, but A-level, you don't have to study A-level if you want to do it at university. You could study A-level and be wanting to do history or anything. It's generally such a good A-level to do just because you get to learn so many different things within one subject. So I definitely think that the variety of stuff that you can learn is definitely very interesting. So for example, I didn't like art personally, but the whole thing wasn't about art. I could learn about literature, I could learn about famous poets, famous food, which definitely hooked me in. But yeah, I think I've rambled on enough about A-levels, so now I'm going to talk about university. So I'm in my second semester at Stirling. Obviously, being a Scottish university, you get 4 years instead of 3, and you also get to choose a lot more electives and do a lot more on the side. So my degree is Spanish and Latin My degree is Spanish and Latin American Studies. But I am doing French for my first 2 years just to keep it on top, and also I love it. Why not? It is exciting and it's something interesting to learn. So yeah, I definitely enjoy doing both of them. Now at university, obviously it's another step up, but it's not too much different. Now I don't know if that's because I've come from an English school and I'm going to a Scottish university, but the first semester to me seemed a bit of revision from everything that I'd already looked at. Sorry, there's people walking past my window and staring at me and thinking, why am I talking to a camera? But that's usual for me. They probably just see me as the weirdo who talks to the camera. So where was I? I've lost where I was. Oh yeah, so basically the first semester was kind of just like a recap and revision. We didn't go into too much complex grammar in the language classes. We didn't even get onto subjunctive. We kind of just did a past, future, conditional kind of thing, and present obviously. And a bit of pronouns, not too much, not too complex. But the thing that I would say, I don't know, I can only say from my experience here, we have a language class, we have a culture class, we have a writing class, and we have a speaking class. So all of them, we have a lecture on top of that. So it is a lot of classes, but it's definitely worth it because you get to learn the grammar as well as how to speak it, as well as the culture. So the culture is very much, you learn different things, and it's very interesting to learn and just further pick out. So far, the first semester, as I've already said, we looked at Argentina, Peru and Mexico in Spanish, and in French we did the education system. We looked at the film Entre les Murs, which personally wasn't my cup of tea, but it was very good at showing the depiction between the education system and les banlieues, which is like the rougher slums area, the council estates kind of thing of France. Not that I'm saying that council estates here are rough, just saying that. And What else did I look at? I looked at a book by Gavalda. It's like short stories, and we had to analyse that, and we learned a little bit about the French Constitution and Parliament and politics, and it was very interesting to learn all these different things about French and Spanish. Got there in the end. And yeah, I definitely love doing that. So obviously I'm in my second semester, and we're continuing to learn language as well as culture and develop our linguistic skills further, and I love it, and this is why you should study languages. So I'm aware that this is a very nerdy video, and I just thought it would be helpful. I was sat in my seminar today and I was like, do you know what? I think that it would be interesting for people to learn that languages is not just about speaking the language, it's more than that. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and hopefully have persuaded you to take GCSE language, A-level language, Nat 5 language, higher language, university language. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a long one. I can already see that it's 18.5 minutes long, the unedited version. So please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, because it really supports my channel. Comment below if you have any questions about studying languages at uni. I'm more than happy to, or even just studying languages in general, I'm more than happy to answer those questions for you. Click the subscribe button to see more videos from me. I post every Sunday at 1 PM, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys!